Fundação Logosófica, em prol da superação humana.
Welcome to Logosofia TV. My name is Nelson Belen, and on this episode of Logosofia in 10 Minutes, I'm very happy and excited to have here in the studio a student of Logosofia who's had a big influence on my study of the science, Myriam Gewerc. Myriam, thanks for joining us.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here with you, Nelson.
Well, we're very happy to have you here. Myriam, I think a good place to start would maybe be how you began to study Logosofia to begin with.
Yes, that happened a very long time ago. I was young. I had a wonderful family. I was healthy. I had moved to a nice big apartment, and we've been traveling a lot. But somehow I felt empty. There was something missing. Do you know what it is to feel empty in Paris? That was not normal.
I have an idea.
So I thought, well, maybe, who knows, I'll try to see what Logosofia is like, because I had family and friends telling me to come to Logosofia to start studying. And so I began studying because I felt this emptiness, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't feeling completely happy. Something was missing.
So what were when you said you were feeling this emptiness,
Yes.
what was it that, when you first encountered Logosofia, what was it that stood out for you or made it different from maybe anything you had experienced before?
Well, I had been living an external life, and I started to know what I had inside myself. And I started by organizing, according to the Logosophical method, to organize my three systems. At first, I didn't think it was working, but little by little, I felt different.
So, the three systems is really such an important aspect of the study of Logosofia. Could you explain more about those three systems?
A system is a series of elements. They are interdependent, but they are related to each other, and they should work as a team to achieve a certain goal. We have, to show you how it works, we have, for instance, the digestive system. Goes from here, from the tongue to the bowels, and lots of elements work to achieve the goal. What is the goal? To take from our nourishment, to take the vitamins, to take the energetic process that we need for our lives. And in Logosofia I learned we had three systems: the mental, the sensitive, and the instinctive system. And they are also made of a series of elements that work together to achieve a certain goal.
So it's interesting because I think, well, for example, you bring up the digestive system.
Yes.
I think this is something most people maybe have probably heard of or have an idea of what that is.
Yeah.
But now you're comparing this to maybe some of the systems we talk about in Logosofia, for example, the mental system. So how would you make that comparison?
Yes, I think the mental system is the most important in this case. And it's made of a series of elements too. These elements are the faculties, the mental faculties. For example, to observe, to reflect, to judge, to think, to memorize, to imagine, but imagination, to imagine as a faculty, a mental faculty, not a thought. To combine the elements that we are looking for, and to achieve a thought, to create a thought or to select a thought. This is what the mental system is for.
Interesting. So in your comparison between, let's say, the mental system and the digestive system,
yes, we could.
would the thought be this kind of elements that you were talking about? You're talking about feeding the mind in a way, the way the digestive system has to feed itself. Would that be the thoughts?
Yes. You know that nowadays you're always reading about what you should ingest to digest better,
Right.
and the vitamins you're looking for, And I think that we should do exactly the same with our mind, you see. We should look for the best food and not the toxic one, so that we can have a better life, of course.
It's interesting because you're talking about, well, you talk about toxic food, and in this sense, I guess we could say, we could talk about toxic thoughts. But before that, because, you know, the concept of thoughts is something very different in Logosophy.
It is.
How would you explain the concept, the logosophical concept of thoughts?
Well, it's a very different concept indeed. Thoughts are mental entities, just like you have physical entities, but it's a mental entity that has a life of its own. And thoughts can be dependent or independent of your own mind, of your own self. And thoughts should be mastered, should be selected, just as we select food.
This is, I remember the first time that I heard this, the idea that thoughts are something that is beyond the control of our own willpower, was something that was so shocking to me. I remember when I first learned about that. But then as I started to study more and more, I started to realize that really it makes perfect sense, right? So many of us do things, and then we think later, why did I do that? Or how did that end up happening? And we can see how those thoughts can actually control our actions, right? Beyond something that we wanted to do. Now, you also talked about the other two faculties, I mean, the other two systems.
Yes.
And how would you go into those?
Well, I would say that the instinctive system, we don't really need to work with it, because it works perfectly, even beyond what it should. It's about survival, but it's also, it's a blind force. So it depends on the other two systems, because it's a blind force. And I would talk about the second system, which is the sensitive system, because it's pretty much like the mental system, because as the mental faculties, they create thoughts, the sensitive faculties, they also create feelings, the faculty of feeling. It creates feelings, it intervenes in their development and the permanence. So, we depend not only on the mental, but also on the sensitive.
And this is something I think for most people, you know, they might find it surprising, this connection between the mental system when people think of our minds, and the sensitive system, our feelings. And unfortunately, we're starting to get to the close to the end of our time here. But I want to make sure that, could you at least just touch upon very quickly maybe this this connection between the sensitive system and the mental system? How are they alike?
They are pretty much alike, but I would say that they should always work together. Because in Logosophy, the author, González Pecote, teaches us to think what we feel and to feel what we think. And he shows us that if we only treat the mental system and we develop it, we can become, and the reason is above all, we can become harsh. And if we only work the sensitive faculties and the mental faculties do not confirm what we feel, we can become naive. And I think that this is why these two systems, they are very important to master the instinctive system.
Interesting. Well, Myriam, I want to be respectful of your time, and of course the time of everyone out there watching. Unfortunately, we are going to have to bring this interview to an end, but I hope you'll agree to do a round two, so we can delve deeper into some of these topics. So thank you again for agreeing to do this.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching this episode of Logosophy in 10 Minutes. I want to encourage you, if you haven't yet, to go visit the channel. There's tons of other videos and material that you can certainly download to check out Logosophy for yourself. Until next time, take care.